Sour Moon is a new movie brought to us by Martin Scorsese starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone. This movie is based off a true story of this series of murders that happened to the Osage Nation of Native Americans. Why was this happening, you might ask? Because in 1920s Oklahoma, these Native Americans had discovered black gold, oil on their land, which made them absurdly wealthy. And naturally, all the white people that came to Oklahoma, they wanted to get a piece of that. So this movie tells the story of this group of people who set out to kill these Native Americans in order to get the money that they had gotten from the oil. I absolutely love Martin Scorsese. He's one of the greatest directors of all time. I think anyone who loves movies would agree with me on that. I mean, you know when he's releasing a movie, it's probably going to be an absolute home run. Not just if he's directing it, but also if he's got Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro in his movie. I mean, you look back on any Martin Scorsese movie that was made that is truly amazing, it had either Leo or De Niro in the movie. I think this is the first time he's had both of them in the same movie together, so how could you not go into this movie hyped out of your mind? And as a Scorsese movie starring De Niro and DiCaprio, for the most part, it crushes it. Getting right into what is the best part of this movie and the reason people should go see the movie, it is the performances. Namely to the big three that I alluded to earlier in this movie, they all give Oscar-worthy performances. Starting off with Robert De Niro. He is probably the villain of this story, although you could make a case that DiCaprio also is. I'll touch more on that later, but what I really like seeing with Robert De Niro is how the movie portrays him as this villain. Like right out the gate, he doesn't really come off as this bad guy. He doesn't really come off as this murderous human being. In fact, these Native American people, they adore him. He's seen as this friend. He's seen as the guy who's kind of been bridging this little gap between the white people who have come to Oklahoma and the Native Americans who have been here this whole time. Like when characters are having a conversation with him, when he meets characters and everything along those lines, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. It's not really until he starts having conversations with his nephew, played by DiCaprio, that you really start to see where his mindset is at. Because you quickly realize this guy is prepared to kill any Native American that could lead to him inheriting a shitload of money. But I like that the movie went there. I like the movie made him more of a complex villain. Or not really a complex villain, but more so in the case like, it's not just cut and dry, here's a guy you should be rooting against. Like, he had a little bit of that Jew hunter from Inglourious Basterds kind of vibe. Like, he's the clear villain of the story, but he's not coming off the way most stereotypical villains come off as. Also, let's get into Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie, who plays the character Ernest Burkhardt, who apparently was a real man, real person, all of that. He's great in this movie. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. He's probably my favorite actor. I think he's one of the best actors working today. He just gives it his all in every movie that he is in. One reviewer went so far to say that this is the best Leonardo DiCaprio performance you will ever see. I'm not going to go that far. Would I put it above The Revenant or The Wolf of Wall Street? I don't think I'd go that far, but does he slay it here? 100%. Because the thing about Leonardo DiCaprio, or in this case Ernest Burkhardt, the character that he plays, you know, he's such an easily manipulated character. He's just kind of weak. He's kind of spineless. He just kind of is there to do whatever his uncle, played by De Niro, is telling him to do. Like, part of this murderous scheme is Ernest Burkhardt is told, I want you to fall in love and marry this Native American girl, and then when we wipe out her family and eventually her, you will be able to inherit all that money. And there's just little things about Burkhardt. It's like, yeah, he has a clear love for money and he wants to obtain this money and everything that goes with it. But what's interesting to its core is when he does marry this Native American girl, played by Lily Gladstone, you do feel like he has fallen in love with her. Like, they get married, they have kids, they become a family. You feel like he wants to be there for her, and when they are plotting against her and her family, you feel like he's feeling some form of guilt because he does love her. I guess for me, that's what made Ernest Burkhardt a unique character in this movie, is the fact that, you know, yeah, part of the plan was like, you're gonna marry into this Native American culture and everything like that, but you didn't expect, or he didn't expect rather, that he was going to fall in love with it. Or with her. I didn't mean to refer to it as it. I meant it is in the culture. You get what I mean. So yeah, there are times he's executing out the plan and he feels nothing towards it. There are other times, though, when he does something or he witnesses something and you see like a look of shock and horror on his face, kind of like, what have I done? Like, you feel there's a lot of confliction in his character, and you want him to make the right decision, but he's never really making the right decision to just turn on Robert De Niro and just live his life with his family, live his life with his wife. And yeah, get into his wife named Molly, played by Lily Gladstone. I can't remember anything she's been in, but I hope she gets more work going forward, because holy shit, she's great in this movie. Like, De Niro and DiCaprio are the big names in this movie, and both of them I think are going to get serious Oscar buzz and will be up for the Oscars for sure. But she also should be. Because I feel like a character like her is very, very important for a story like this, because it's allowing you to not just see it from the eyes of the people who are committing the murders. You're seeing the eyes of the victim here. Because you feel horrible for her. I mean, she loses so much of her family, of her life. She loves her husband, but she doesn't feel like she can trust him, because deep down she kind of thinks that maybe he could be doing something to her. But going back to what I said earlier, Ernest Burkhardt loves his wife, but his wife loves him too. And like shows, like when you do love someone so much, you are forced to trust them. You have no choice but to trust them with your whole heart. And that really can be to its detriment, because you just see what is happening with her as the movie goes along, and she is in rough shape by the end of it. Like emotionally, physically, it's like these people, they aim to kill her in like every sense of the word. And that's a testament I gotta give to Lily Gladstone's performance. By the end of it, she's such a broken down, worn down woman who has lost everything. What I also think this movie does a really great job in is how involved it needs you to be. It's able to suck you right into its story because it's such a convoluted story. I mean, this was an execution of so many murders of these Native American people that there was a lot that went into it. There's a lot that needed to happen. There's a lot that had to go down. There's a lot of people that needed to be involved. So as a result of that, it doesn't make it a hard movie to follow, but it is a movie that requires you to be very engaged with it. But it doesn't require you to be engaged like it's a chore. Like, you are involved. You're sucked in. It grabs you right into here, and you are completely aware of what's going on. And as a result of that, despite how long this movie was, I was engaged every second of it because I didn't want to miss anything important. There was no real lull in the movie where I was like drifting off or not thinking about the movie or not focused on the movie, or there was no point where I really felt I could go up and take a pee break or anything like that. I'm like, nope. I get to see everything that happens right here. I need to know exactly how they orchestrated all of this. And that's where I give the movie credit for not just how it executed its storytelling, but also how it executed its runtime. I mean, we all know this. Martin Scorsese, he likes long movies. I mean, the last couple movies he's made, Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman, this movie, they've all been well over 3 hours long. However, and this just might be me here, I didn't feel like this movie felt 3.5 hours long. Because again, I was never sitting there bored. I was never sitting there like they should speed this process up. I was sitting there just engaged with it. And I will say, for a good majority of this movie, it didn't really feel like it was 3.5 hours long. It felt more like 2.5 hours long. Which, granted, does the movie still feel long in that sense? Yes, it does, but it doesn't feel excruciating. Because let's be real, a 3.5 hour long movie that felt 3.5 hours long, you'd be sitting there in your chair just out of your mind. If it feels 2.5 hours long, it's still gonna feel long, but it's not like you're gonna be itching for the movie to be over just so you can stand up. As far as flaws on the movie go, okay, I just complimented how it executed its storytelling and its runtime, but here is where I felt some of the detriment towards both. It's a very long movie and a very involved plot. As a result of that, there are so many things going on in this movie that when you get towards the end of it, or not even really the end of the movie, but at so many various points where they bring up certain things that happened earlier in the movie and they bring up certain characters, you're kind of sitting there trying to remember everything that happened. Because this whole movie is just a long journey. It's a long odyssey. And you're just sitting there and you're kind of trying to remember. It's like, okay, they're referring to this character, but who are they again? And who did they murder again that was really important? And who was that guy? So that's what I'll say right there. Because there's so much going on, there's so much that you have to keep up with, as well as the movie keeps you engaged, it's just really hard to do that based off one viewing. Because of that, it's probably a movie that you'll need to watch more than once in order to just absorb everything that you can. But the thing is, because it's a 3.5 hour long movie, it's not just something that you can just pop in and just watch whenever you have free time. Like long movies, you have to make time. You have to clear your schedule and really just ignore the world if you want to be invested in it. So as a result, it is a movie that I could maybe appreciate the storytelling and the things I missed more if I watch it more, but I don't know how often I'm going to be able to watch it more. Also, get into the ending of this movie. Okay, so Martin Scorsese does something different that I'm not going to say is bad or something that I didn't even necessarily not enjoy. But it did take me out of the movie a little bit. Okay, so you know at the end of just about every movie that's based off a true story, they like show all these texts that kind of like tell you like the rest of the story, like, okay, this is what happened to this character, and this is what this event led to, and this is what happened here. Scorsese doesn't do that. Instead, he takes a very different approach towards wrap-up, if you want to put it that way. Basically saying like what happened to every character, how did all of this unfold, what happened to this person. I would say the way he shows how it went down, the way he explains how it went down in the end is very interesting, and it was entertaining. But it doesn't really have a lot to do with everything that just happened. It's kind of like the studio approached Martin Scorsese and there's like, hey, so for the end of the movie, are you gonna show out all those texts that kind of show what happened after the story? And he's like, no, you know something? I got something better in mind. And so, you know, he does what he does. And yeah, it's enjoyable. It's fun. It's very unique. But because I've never seen it before, it just took me out of the movie a little bit. Because while I'm seeing this scene or this moment or whatever you want to call it unfold, I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, so are we still involved with those characters? Is this story wrapped up? Like, what is this? Took me out of the movie for a little bit, and I can't ignore that. But all in all, I will say Killers of the Flower Moon, for the most part, it really executes what it wanted to execute with flying colors. Martin Scorsese is an absolute master behind the camera. I don't know how much filmmaking he has left in him. He's been talking about retirement for a while. If this was his last movie, it's not his best one, but it was a damn good directing job. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, they're all going to be up for Oscars. Wouldn't be shocked if any of them won. It tells you a story that I don't think many people were aware of, and it is absolutely gruesome. It wipes you out. It has you sitting there like you can't believe people would just go this far. It leaves you shocked. Executes its runtime really well. I do think there are moments where the movie took me out of it a little bit. I also think there are times where I couldn't keep up with the movie as much just because of how much is going on and how much of movie it was. But in the end, we've always known Martin Scorsese movies are an experience. This one is no exception to that. So that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. And as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.